All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Insights of All Trades. This is going to be episode number 8. Cole's not here right now, as you can probably see if you're listening or if you're watching it on YouTube. He went on a mission trip to Haiti. It was a very last minute thing. I think he was in the grocery store and someone came up to him and was like, "Hey, do you want to go on this like full all expenses paid Haiti mission trip?" Because somebody just backed out. Literally, I'm on the phone with them right now and stuff. And he was like, "Oh, is this a joke?" But turns out it wasn't a joke. And Cole kind of packed up and left the next day. So he's in Haiti for like 2 weeks, I want to say, with I think it's people from his church. But I can't really talk to him because he doesn't have service down there. But anyways, so he's not here. So I'm doing this podcast, just me, but I have an awesome guest. My dear friend Jenn Houtz is coming on the show. She is a PhD student at Cornell University, and she is researching the gut-brain axis in birds and how the bacteria in our stomach, in our intestines, whatever, is influencing our brain and the way we think so her research is in birds, but it translates over to humans too. So it's a really interesting conversation, and I hope you guys really enjoy that one. So before we get to that, I just have a quick insight from one of my friends in San Antonio, Texas. His name is Joseph Garza. So it's not necessarily like advice or anything. It's just a phrase that we've all heard and are all familiar with, but he said he likes to live by it, and it keeps stress levels down and things. Is everything happens for a reason. So if something happens and maybe it's a negative thing in your life, oftentimes it does. Years down the line or months down the line or whatever, it does turn into a positive light, and there is a silver lining around certain things. So I think that's a decent quote to have, because just a reminder that life's going to throw things at you, but there's a reason behind it. Whether you look at it that way or not, you can make a reason behind it and make things meaningful if you'd like to, and you can grow as a person. So anyways, cool. Thanks for that, Joe. And everybody else that's listening, hope you guys enjoy this talk. And we'll be with Jen in a couple seconds. So thanks. Welcome to Insights of All Trades with Cole and Nick. This is where we talk to people we meet along our journeys through medicine, military service, sports, education, and beyond. We hope you enjoy. All right, Jenn Houtz. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. This is awesome. It's been a minute since we last saw each other.
I know, yeah, it has been a while. Probably under a year now, right?
Yeah, I would think so. We usually try to we have a little group that we try to get together every year.
Definitely.
At least, yeah. So we have our 5-year high school reunion this afternoon.
We do, yeah.
Are you excited for that?
I'm very excited. It will be interesting to see everyone come together after 5 years.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know a lot of schools don't really do like a 5-year thing, because I was telling people at school about it, and they're like, 5 years, like that's kind of aggressive. I'm like,
I know, yeah. I have some friends that are from bigger high schools that are like over 1,000 people, and I think it's more common to do like a 10-year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how's everything going?
Good. Just finished my first year at Cornell. I'm doing my PhD there in ecology and evolutionary biology.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what does that entail? Like, what kind of research and stuff are you doing?
Yeah, so I look at the gut-brain axis in birds. So Cornell is really well known for the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So there I'm studying interactions between gut bacteria and how it interacts with the brain and behavior.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what kind of, is it like a specific type of bird that you're working with? Or?
Yeah, so I'm currently working with tree swallows.
Okay.
So they're these really bright iridescent green birds that nest in artificial nest boxes. Okay. So we have hundreds of them, I think 600 set up around these artificial ponds. And then we can go and you just put your hand over the hole in the nest box and you reach in and grab them.
Oh, jeez. So what are you testing on them exactly?
Yeah, so I'm in Maren Vatusek's lab. The main theme of the lab is stress physiology, and then each PhD student kind of has their own little subset. So the normal sampling regime is you just go out and you take the bird and you collect a blood sample from the wing right here. And then we collect the plasma from the blood sample and then look at stress hormones.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my other part is we look at the cloacal microbiome communities.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So stress hormones, what kind of stuff are you looking at? Like cortisol and...
Yeah, so cortisol is in mammals and birds have corticosterone.
Ah, okay.
So it's like an analog of cortisol.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything else like
in
hormones?
the blood?
Yeah.
Yeah, we look at glucose. We look at telomeres. So
Okay.
telomeres are the ends of your chromosomes. It's a whole bunch of repeated nucleotides. And when your DNA is replicating over multiple years, your chromosomes will shorten. So if you look at the telomere lengths, it's a sign of stress. So the shorter your telomere lengths are, the more stressed you've been throughout your lifetime.
Okay. Does that indicate that there's been more like cell division, or how does that measure stress?
Yeah, it's right. So it's more that your body, like, you're increasing metabolism and you're increasing cell division.
Okay.
So your body's trying to prepare itself for a stressful event.
Okay. So then every time the cell divides, it's like your telomere gets a little bit shorter and a little bit shorter.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Because it's I'm trying to like think back to genetics. So it's
I
like
know.
there's just like a tiny little segment at the end of every chromosome that can't get replicated for some reason, right? So then it just falls off.
Yeah. I don't know the exact mechanisms.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
Yeah, but it's super interesting.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of like anti-aging stuff going on around like telomere stuff. But that's like how cancer cells are able to live so long, is because they have an enzyme that lets them keep their telomeres at like a good length. It's like telomerase or something.
Telomerase, yeah. Look
so,
at that.
Advanced
biology.
Yeah, there we go.
Junior out of high school.
Yep. We did learn something.
We did.
So, yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And then, so the other flip side of that is gut, like microbiome
it's gut
stuff,
bacteria.
Right? So that's kind of a hot topic today,
It is really hot. So normally in science, what happens is you have something that's discovered in an animal system, and then it slowly makes its way over into human research. But microbiomes are the opposite. So I don't know, fecal transplants have been going on for, I think, over 1,000 years now.
Okay, do you want to tell people what that is?
Yeah. So
it sounds fancy, right?
Yeah. So in the case of, let's say you get an infection of some type and it completely wipes out your gut bacteria, which are really important for like immune function and metabolism, what the doctors might do is they might ask someone who lives with you, who you would share communities with, to actually donate a fecal sample, and then you re-inoculate your gut with a similar community.
Yeah, so people are literally taking their poop and putting it inside of someone else to like, regrow the good bacteria in your body so that you can, stay functioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's actually some places in Pittsburgh, so I've heard, that will take like donations for these fecal transplants. So
yeah, it was super interesting. So there was all of that going on in medicine, and then it's now slowly transitioning into other model systems.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah.
I wonder how long that dates back, like where someone decided like, oh, let's try this.
Well, I think so. I looked it up a couple of days ago, and it said 1,000 years. It's in China, I believe, but I don't know who would have thought that.
I don't know. There's so many things that it seems like they predate like actually knowing anything about it, but it's just like it just works, and it's like, all right, I guess we'll try this. It sounds so weird, but
it's definitely a hot research topic right now. I mean, they're trying to relate microbiome to everything, and it usually does.
Before we lose too many people on like the technicalities, do you want to like explain what exactly the microbiome is?
So we have I think it's 10, or there's always 10 times more microbes or bacteria on you than there are human cells. So you can imagine the kind of implications that this would have for your health.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's like your body weight is. Like, I forget the percentage, but it's something.
Like 2 kilograms of microbes.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, so the microbiome are just the collection of microorganisms, and this includes bacteria, viruses, archaea, protozoa that inhabit your GI tract. And then it also includes their collective genomes. So there's microbiota, which is just referring to the microorganisms. And then microbiome is actually referring to the microbes themselves plus their genomes.
Okay.
Because so bacteria can do this thing called horizontal gene transfer, where they can actually transmit their own genetic material back and forth. Mm-hmm. So you have to include the entire community.
Okay, yeah. I was talking to an entomologist about like a similar thing. Yeah. And I had him on the show like a couple episodes ago, and he was talking about genetically modified organisms and how it's, it's just like gene transfer between bacteria really, but just taking it to the next level of like plants or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So super cool.
It is cool. So so there's like this whole microbiome in the gut, right?
Yeah.
There's also are there also like microbiomes in like the lungs and things like that too, or something like that? Or but the big one that everyone thinks about and talks about now is like in the gut, because it's interesting because it can like relay back to your central nervous system and affect how you're feeling and things like that. Yeah. And that's why everyone's getting into kombucha and like yogurt and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, if you just know like generally that, having a more diverse microbiome. So diverse meaning that you have more species. So people are really getting into probiotics to try and supplement their microbiome in a way. So this is a fun fact. I'm going to diverge a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
But so when you're born, depending on your mode of delivery, it can change your microbiome. So if you're born via C-section, your gut microbiota represents your mom's skin microbiota.
Okay.
But if you're born like vaginally, then your gut microbiome represents your mother's vaginal microbiome.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could pick up some negative like bacteria and stuff too, right? Like someone could get like Staph aureus maybe from your skin, or no?
Yeah, no, I can.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So they probably control
it's super
for that,
crazy.
I guess, right?
Yeah,
I should know this, but
yeah. So when you're young, your microbiome really resembles that of your mother, but then slowly, as you age to about 2 years of age, then it actually resembles the adult microbiome.
Okay.
Yeah, so it shifts really quickly from like a low diverse infant microbiome to a really diverse adult microbiome.
Just within a couple years?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's a combination of your genetics and your environment.
Interesting. So how's that work with birds then if they're hatching out of eggs?
Yeah, so we don't really know right now. It's really hard because eggshells are porous, so we don't know if microbes can actually get in there. Right now, it's assumed that birds are sterile up until they hatch out of the egg.
Okay.
And then it's either through, like, if you've ever seen like a mother bird feed their babies, it's either through what the mom feeds it or just like the surrounding nest microbiome.
Okay. Yeah.
Will inoculate the chicks. Yeah.
Okay. So it could get possibly some of the mother's like bacteria and whatnot from the just feeding, like basically the mouth to mouth type thing, or beak to beak or whatever. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like evolutionarily, it's probably better the way that humans have evolved it so that we can get it from the start.
Right.
Because these bacteria are really, bacteria and other microorganisms are really important to a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Right? So they extract short chain fatty acids from our diet, which are really important for metabolism. If we didn't have those particular microbes, we wouldn't be able to digest fiber, for instance.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. And they train your immune system. So they actually train your, is it B lymphocytes that produce antibodies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, B cells.
Yeah, they train your B cells during development as to what to recognize as a foreign body.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It's just when you're first developing your immune system, your B cells are like slowly like, I don't know the exact mechanism, but I'm assuming that they're going around and kind of sampling different antigens.
Okay, yeah.
So then your bacteria that are there from the beginning, they learn to recognize as commensal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that they don't attack your own gut.
Right,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah. Huh. That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, wow. Okay. So there's like your own immune system's just floating around, like in the, in your gut, ready to attack whatever you ingest. It's, not good for you,
Right.
but it knows not to attack the good bacteria because they've trained it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So what kind of stuff have you found with the birds so far? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So my thesis is mainly looking at the gut-brain axis. So that's just the bidirectional relationship between gut bacteria, your central nervous system, and your brain. So what we find is that if you have really high stress levels, you have a lower diverse microbiome or less diverse microbiome.
Okay.
Which then has implications for behavior and development and stuff like that. So I just did this experiment, but I gave birds antibiotics to manipulate their microbiome.
Okay. Yeah. What kind of antibiotics?
It was a cocktail.
Ah.
So yeah, so it was just a slew of different things because no one's actually given a bird an antibiotic yet to try and manipulate microbiomes other than in the poultry industry.
Okay. Yeah.
But
so you're the first?
Yeah. Wow. And a wild bird. Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So I'm assuming what's going to happen is that so then we subjected the birds to a cold stressor. Tree swallows are aerial insectivores, so they primarily eat flying insects. So when it's cold, let's say there's a cold snap in the middle of the summer, their food supply gets wiped out.
Wow. Okay.
So, and then they also, when birds are developing, they aren't feathered in yet. So a cold stressor is like an ecologically relevant stressor. So what we did, we gave the birds antibiotics, subjected them to a cold stressor, and then we measured their circulating hormone levels.
Okay.
So that is to be determined.
That is cool.
As to what happened. Yeah.
So how long is this project slated to be?
Yeah, so that was just one field season. So that started in May and ended about 2 weeks ago, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So now you're just analyzing all the data and stuff?
Yep. I have a whole bunch of undergraduates analyzing data.
That's fun. Yeah. Put them to work.
Right. It's nice being on the other side now.
It is. Yeah. I know. I feel the same way.
Yeah. So you're doing research now, right?
Yeah. I'm doing some research at Pitt involving sleep and traumatic brain injury. Yeah.
Very cool.
So I'm in the middle of it right now, kind of in the same spot. Like I have all the data collected, just not analyzed.
Right.
But yeah, basically we're looking at sleep after a brain injury. And these are specifically like severe and moderate traumatic brain injuries. So not like your concussion, but something that's a little bit more severe than that.
Okay.
And we're looking at sleep after that and how that affects your healing process. So if you're getting more sleep, are you healing faster? Or, if you're getting better quality sleep, are you, more cognitively there? Which would make sense. It's pretty interesting stuff. We have like a research requirement at Pitt, so we have to do this.
Okay.
We have to do our own project by the end of the 4 years, which sounds like a long time, but in the middle of med school, it's kind of a lot to work with.
Definitely.
So a lot of people do it this summer.
Okay.
And that's between your first and second year.
Okay, so you could just fit it into a single summer. It doesn't have to be like a multi-year study.
It's called a longitudinal research project, so we have to like do updates and be working on it throughout the 4 years. Okay. But so this summer they call it as like the summer research project, which is supposed to be like a stepping stone for your longitudinal project.
I gotcha. So you collect some preliminary data.
Yeah, and get like a little, trial run of everything and get used to the lab and all that stuff. and then you can kind of go from there.
Right.
So I actually got really interested in sleep from have you ever heard of Matthew Walker?
No.
Okay, so I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast. I think that Cole, the co-host on this show, he had sent me, and it's basically this like leading sleep researcher out of I think UC Berkeley.
Okay.
And he's talking about how much sleep affects literally everything.
That's
so
crazy.
like if you sleep like 7 to 9 hours, which is what you're supposed to have, it's like there's way lower rates of depression, anxiety, like everything like that. There's just like your stress hormones are way down. But then there's like these people there's like a gene, I guess, that people have that that they don't need as much sleep. Like they can run off of like 4 or 5 hours, and everyone's like, oh, I got that. But it's actually only like prevalent in I think like 0.1% of the population.
Right.
So it's really rare for someone to have that. But anyways, I'm going off on a tangent.
No, it's interesting. It's
yeah,
super cool.
But I got super into this sleep research stuff. So I found my undergrad research was in traumatic brain injury at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this traumatic brain injury lab at Pitt, and I was like, oh, I'm getting really into this like sleep stuff. Do you have any sleep data? And so she had collected some data on sleep on her subjects, and I just threw it together, and hopefully it's gonna work. But it's kind of like all scattered because it's in the early stages. But
right, so that's a good example of how research works. You like find something really interesting,
yeah,
and then go approach someone and
and hope
see
it
if they
works
have
out.
some data. Right, just try it. Right?
Yeah,
like I had no aspirations of studying birds. It kind of just happened. I get that question a lot. Like, how did you decide to study bird hormones and microbiomes?
Yeah.
When I went to Millersville freshman year, I wanted to be a high school biology teacher. And
that's
then,
pretty cool.
yeah. And then I randomly got placed into a class where the professor was talking about the trips that he took to the Ecuadorian Amazon. And he was looking for a research student. And I got lucky and then went to the Amazon the next year. And that's how I stumbled into bird research.
Yeah, I remember seeing that you were down there like in the Amazon and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell people a little about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I went to the Ecuadorian Amazon 3 different times throughout undergrad during winter breaks. We went down there and studied social behavior of a bird called the wire-tailed manakin. So these birds are really cool. Takes about 6 hours. Like once you get to the edge of the jungle, it takes about 6 hours by boat to actually get to them. So they're really remote. So not many people work with them.
Yeah.
But these birds are crazy because they have the males do this courtship display where it's basically like the territory holder has a wingman, and they
that's awesome.
do this like kind of like somersaulting dance.
I think
over each other.
So did you watch the? I think it was Our Planet. There's like
with David Attenborough.
I think so.
Well,
yeah,
he's probably in all of them.
Yeah, I think he's in all. I don't know, but it shows like these birds that are doing this like synchronized dance.
Yeah, so that's a different kind of mannequin.
Okay.
But there's like 60 species of mannequins, and they all kind of have a variation of these male-male cooperative courtship displays.
Okay, nice.
But yeah, it's really interesting because the females, so they're a lek breeding species. So a lek breeding species.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so a lek is basically like a plot of land where there are a whole bunch of males aggregated and they each have a territory. And then females will fly through the territories and pick the male that they want that is impressing them the most. And then they mate with the male and then they fly off and raise the young on their own. So the lek is basically like breeding grounds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And the males work together, but
they do.
Do they know beforehand? Like, do they know their roles beforehand that like this one is cooperating with this one to help him get a mate?
Yep.
Wow, that's
yeah, it's really weird because they also have high testosterone levels, like depending on their social rank. So the social ranking depends on age and plumage coloration.
Okay.
But they also have really high testosterone levels, which if you think like about, let's say, athletes that shoot up with steroids, they're kind of known for like these aggressive tendencies. Yeah. But it's like opposite in these birds.
Really?
So the high testosterone actually leads to increased cooperation.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So when we went down there, we manipulated hormone levels. So we took the non-territorial males or like the wingmen and we increased the testosterone. And then we took the territory holders and we decreased their testosterone.
So the wingmen became more cooperative with the territory holders?
Yeah, they actually like there's like a social network going on where the territory holders have multiple partnerships. So it's not like there's one wingman. The most reproductively successful male has multiple partnerships with other wingmen.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, when we increased the testosterone in they're called floaters, the non-territorial wingmen. Okay. But we increased testosterone, they established more partnerships.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, super cool.
So the floaters and the the
territory holders.
Yeah, the territory holders. They like practice these dances too, right?
They do.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
In that that Our Planet, I think it was, there's like one of them's watching and pretending to be the female while like the other 3 or whatever are practicing. It's so funny.
Yeah, they do practice. Yeah, we would go out and we set up GoPro cameras.
Okay, nice.
And you like go out. I mean, the old-fashioned way with ecology is you go out with binoculars. You just stand there for multiple hours.
Just take notes.
You just take notes. It's the first thing I ever did in the Amazon. I stood out there for 6 hours watching through binoculars.
How hot was it down there?
Oh man, it was like probably in the 90s. I would say
like
it was like 80%
right?
humidity.
Yeah,
and like the terrain is up and down like this, so it was intense. Yeah, but it was fun. I definitely knew after that I didn't want to do a PhD in the tropics. 3 weeks.
But then you went back 2 more times, you said.
I did, but only in short bouts.
Okay, so the first time was how long?
They were each 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Nice.
Yeah. So it was really nice to get away from the snowy Pennsylvania area.
And so that got you really interested in like birds and everything, right?
Yeah. So that got me interested in birds and hormones in general. And then it wasn't until my junior year where I actually discovered, I think I read a paper on microbiomes. And I thought that when I went to graduate school, I would have to choose between like my love for endocrinology or love for microbiomes. And then I randomly decided to like Google search it one day, and it turned out that they're very connected.
Nice.
So that's how it kind of led into what my doctoral research is. And
so you found somebody at Cornell. Is that so? Can you walk people through the process of applying to a PhD program? Because actually, I'm really not familiar with it either. But I know you kind of go based on meeting a mentor, right? And then if it's a good fit between you two.
Yeah, this would be good. Maybe we can differentiate between like how grad school works and how med school works for people that may be thinking about applying.
Right,
yeah. So what normally happens, and this also depends on the program, but you identify a particular advisor that you're interested in and you shoot them an email. It's really opposite from how med school is, where you just like submit a whole bunch of applications to multiple schools. For grad school or for PhD programs, you are really selective into who you send emails to.
Okay.
And then if it seems like you're going to be a good fit for the lab, they'll set up like a Skype interview with you.
Okay.
You Skype, you talk about your interests some more, and then they'll formally invite you to submit an application to the program. And it also depends on the program.
Or they won't if they don't like you.
Right. Yeah, some PIs will just say they don't have room, but they might. Yeah. But depending on the program, it depends on if your PI, so PI meaning principal investigator. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, but it depends on if they have a big grant. They might have a position written into the grant to fund you as a grad student.
Okay.
Or you may have to go through like a committee decision to actually get into the department.
Okay. So if they're not funded by a grant, does the funding come through
the department?
Okay.
Yeah. So the funding could come through like teaching assistantships.
Okay.
So that's a very common way that grad positions are funded is you are employed as a teaching assistant in like a big lecture class for undergraduates.
So have you been doing some TAing?
I have not yet.
Okay.
I'm on fellowship right now.
Okay. What does that mean?
So fellowship is, so let's say that your PI doesn't have their own grants to pay you as a grad student. There's always the option to be a TA, but students also have the opportunities to write external fellowships where you get the money from an outside organization and then you can take it with you wherever you want to go. Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. So it's like kind of like writing a grant for yourself.
Yes.
Almost. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. So you can write a grant and then you can get basically like living expenses paid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's what I did when I was a senior undergraduate. I wrote one and got 3 years of funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So that's a big difference between med school and,
it is, yes.
And doing a PhD is just the funding in general. So we have to pay like tuition, obviously.
Right.
Whereas you guys kind of get paid, not well, right? But
yeah, it depends on where you go. So I'm doing my I'm getting paid to go for my PhD. I get free health insurance, free tuition, and then I get, I think like depending on the area and the living expenses there, it can be anywhere from $20,000 to $35,000. depending on where you are.
Of like a stipend each year? Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. And then it also depends on like PhD versus master's. Master's students usually get paid a little less.
Okay.
But
in some master's programs, you have to pay for them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking to go for a master's to do research, don't pay for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Try and find some place.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work. I mean, because now doing research, everything.
Oh yeah.
It is. It's you get to make your own schedule in a way, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work out, then that's like, depending on how long your project, that's like 6 months of wasted. Well, not wasted, because like negative results are just as important. Right, exactly. So somebody else doesn't, spend their time looking for the same thing. But it is really disheartening to like.
It is.
There's no really association here.
Right. Yeah. Especially in our field. So in ecology, you only have a couple months to collect your data. Mm-hmm. So for me, the birds breed May through July. Wow. So let's say I collect data and then it turns out that my manipulation didn't work. I have to wait a whole nother year before I can do it again.
So what do you do in the whole time between that?
So at that time we analyze all of the data.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do all the lab work. Our lab is really into outreach. So we do lots of public presentations. Yeah.
Nice. So as a PhD student, are you taking classes right now also, or
so it also depends on it depends on the program.
Okay.
So my PhD program at Cornell only required one class.
The whole time, or just
whole time?
Wow.
So and it was just the professors came in and gave a little research talk, and then you read one of their papers and discussed it. Huh. And that was my only class required.
That's cool.
Yeah, but so once you reach like the level of a PhD, it's kind of on you to learn what you need to learn.
Yeah.
So my advisor's philosophy is just audit classes. So audit is go in and sit and learn the material, but you don't have to take it for a grade.
Okay.
Yeah. So depending on the graduate school, your GPA kind of doesn't exist anymore.
Okay. So do you still have to register for those classes, or can you just kind of go in and sit there and chill?
I can just go in.
That's cool.
Yeah, usually like shoot the professor an email. But yeah, they're usually pretty chill about it.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Okay. So you had one class that you took and you're already done with it?
Yeah, I'm already done.
So
now I'm just doing research. And then I have a 1-year teaching requirement, but I'm going to push that off till my 4th year.
Okay. So that's like a TA type thing?
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what's the stress level like in grad school?
Yeah, it has a lot to do with your advisor, I think.
Okay.
And my advisor is wonderful. She's, some advisors are like, you have to work 9 to 5 every day. But she's just like, come in and get your work done.
Yeah.
And there's like no vacation policy, so I can kind of just take off when I want to.
Come home for your 5-year reunion.
Exactly, right? Yeah, mark that one off on the calendar.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Yeah. Jealous.
Right, because med school is regimented.
Yeah, we have like blocks of classes that we have to take. And we pretty much go. So we have this first summer off because of like the research thing. And I think actually most schools have the summer off just because, I don't know, that's just how it is. But then after this, next summer we take, before next summer we take boards.
Okay.
So we actually get like a month and a half-ish off to study for boards. Because it's just like so much information and we move at like a really fast pace.
Right.
So you have to kind of like cram in everything you've already learned the last 2 years and try and like remember everything for this one test. And then.
Okay. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was like an exam halfway through.
Yeah. So at the end of your second year, for us, we take it in April, but I have friends that take it in March or people that take it in like as late as like July, August.
Okay.
But anyways, we have to take these. That's called Step 1, Usmle Step 1, and you have to pretty much combine everything you learned your first 2 years. So there's topics like anatomy, physiology, like all sorts of like renal, cardio, pulmonary. There's like genetics, just like the whole everything you take in med school boils down to this one 8-hour exam.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So is it like a national exam or does each university create their own?
No, it's a national thing.
Wow,
it's kind of like an SAT on steroids type thing.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's like more equivalent to how the MCAT was?
Yeah, but even more like So everyone studies a lot for the MCAT, obviously, but some people take it like right after, like I took it right after my finals week of junior year. So there's not a whole lot of time built in to like study for the exact MCAT. Like I still studied for it a good bit, but with this one, pretty much every school has what they call dedicated. So for the step one, you get like 4 to 6 weeks at least usually to just sit down and just study for this. So it's kind of based on what I was seeing with the second years last year. It's a pretty stressful time because everyone's like, oh, I'm already on this chapter of whatever. Like there's like a standard book that everyone uses, like first aid. And like, oh, I'm on cardio and first aid already, which is like 200 pages in. And everyone's like, oh, I'm freaking out. Like I'm only on renal, which is page 100 or something. And then it's like, I gotta, so there's a lot of neurotic people in medical school, but if you kind of learn to like sift through it and find your own groove, it's not bad.
So we have like the equivalent actually. So when you're doing a PhD, you have your A exam, which is you have like a written and an oral component like after your second year. So
what's the oral component like?
So that's why I was asking if it's just like a nationally recognized exam. So depending on where you are, your A exam, it's also flexible when you take it. Some people take it at the end of their second, some people at the beginning of their third. But you form a committee of your advisor and then 2 to 4 other faculty that kind of align with different parts of your thesis. And then they come together and they decide how your A exam is going to be structured.
Oh, okay. So it's not like a standardized thing.
There's never been like a standardized A exam. So it really depends on what they require. Some require essays on particular subjects. Others require just like a research paper that you've already been working on. But the oral component is they'll assign you things to read a couple months in advance, and then you come into the room and they can ask you anything. It's like, fair game.
Do you present on it? Like, do you make like a PowerPoint and things like that? Or you just go in and they just
go
ask
in
you?
For like 3.5 hours. They can ask you any question from like the specifics of ecology and evolutionary biology down to like the specific mechanism of one of your experiments.
That is stressful.
So that I would say that's one of the most stressful times is when you're approaching your A exam and you're trying to study.
When is the A exam?
It's anytime from your second year to the beginning of your third.
So are there other grad students in your lab that have, like, you're kind of watching them do this?
Yes. So the first person in my lab just took her A exam in October. So I got to watch her study for it and everything. But then she came out. I mean, usually the mentality is it's not as bad as you thought it was going to.
Nice.
But one of her committee members had assigned her the history of our department.
What? That's dumb.
So she had to know.
I mean, I guess that makes sense. How well you can sift through information.
I guess so, But then he didn't ask her anything on it.
So that's the A exam, you said, and then there's a B exam?
And then there's a B exam. So your B exam is like what you describe as like a formal presentation with all of your research at the very end.
So it's like defending your thesis, basically?
So your B exam is your defense.
Gotcha.
Which you have like a public presentation open to everyone, and then you have like a smaller meeting with your committee where they can ask you questions. But normally they won't let you defend unless you're ready. That's the hope anyway.
So you probably, I would think you present it to like your lab mates and everything first, right? And it's like gives you feedback.
And then the timing of your B exam just depends. I mean, a PhD is just like a funny time. There's no real set, like you have to be done in 5 years. So I think our department's anywhere from 5 to 8 years. Because if your research doesn't work out in like the first 3 years, it's like, what are you supposed to do? You can't just... So, and then you can take some cookies and stuff and butter them up before like you present. So it's like on you to provide the food. That is cool. That's
so much different from medical school, but
because you're done in 4 years.
We're like, you are done in 4 years unless you take what they call like a, I think at my school they call it maybe like a research year or something like that. It's like a complete different program that I think they get a stipend and stuff if they do that extra year. But it's only research. You're not taking classes and stuff. But you're pretty much I mean, it's very structured that like these classes are this time at like
Right.
like you can only take like say pathology in January. Like everyone takes it in January. It's a 3-week class or whatever. And
is it like pass fail, or do you actually get assigned grades?
so luckily and thankfully, my school is pass fail, but there are a lot of schools that aren't pass fail, and I can't imagine because
it just doesn't make. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be so stressful.
Now, like being on the other side of stuff, just like looking back at undergrad and how anal I was about grades.
Yeah. I know.
Now it just doesn't make any sense.
And think about like throw a lot of like neurotic pre-meds into like the first like class of medical school. And everyone's like, you know.
Right.
The nice thing about pass fail is people will cooperate a lot with like studying. So we have a Google Drive in our class where we upload like study guides and things like that for each other.
Okay, so it's really collaborative.
Yeah, everyone's very like collaborative and wants everyone to do well because there's no like it's not like, oh, I need to be number one in the class, so I need to like do my own thing. It's like everyone just needs to pass, so let's try and get everyone through.
Because you're all gonna be doctors.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So for our first 2 years we're pass fail, like completely pass fail. There's some schools that have like a built-in grading system where they don't tell everyone, like they don't tell the students who's ranked where, but it's like technically pass fail, and as long as you pass you move on, but they have like an internal ranking system, which then I guess I'm not quite sure the point of that. There's like an honor society called AOA that I think if you're like internally ranked, like in maybe the top 10% or something, you get submitted to AOA.
So it's not like there's like a cutoff as to like who moves on to the next class depending on the ranking. No. Okay, that's good. Yeah. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be insane. But even just the fact of like having a GPA to report to like on residency applications and stuff, that would stress me out because
oh my gosh, yeah,
you'd have to like the amount of studying I do now. It's probably admittedly not as much as I should, but I can't imagine like ramping that up so much more just to get
like an A.
Yeah, an A. Like,
oh man,
it's crazy the difference between an A and a B is like 5 percentage points, which can boil down to like, well, you know what I mean, like a 92 versus a 87 or 86 or whatever. Like that's like a 93 we'll say is an A, and then an 87, 86 is a solid B,
right? Like not like a B plus,
right? Yeah, right, which is a full like 4.0 to 3.0, right?
Oh, right.
And that's literally only 6 percentage points, so that can come down to like, oh, I missed like
a couple questions,
a few more extra questions on an exam, and that's the difference between having a 4.0 versus like, which is still really good at 3.0, but it's like having, you know, that's a big jump, right? Definitely. So it's pretty nice not to have to worry about that exactly. Right. But I don't know.
It's definitely nice. It's nice being on the other side now.
Yeah,
I definitely enjoy graduate school more than I did undergrad.
Same, yeah. Undergrad is it's really fun, but it's also very stressful, like preparing for the next step.
Right.
You know, whether it's like a job or whether you're going to go to graduate school or medical school or whatever. You always have to kind of be a little bit on edge about like, am I doing the right stuff?
Right.
Because you see so much and hear so much about like what to do, but it's like, am I actually going to get in anywhere?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's really stressful coming in your first year because you don't know. I mean, the majority of people, I would say, you come in with one expectation and then you take a class that changes your perspective and then you completely switch. I mean, that's what happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know a lot of people that went from, you know, being pre-med wanting to go to medical school because we all have the same classes in undergrad, like the first year, and then like within a year that like numbers in half, and then vice versa. There's like a lot of people that I know in medical school that were like American Studies majors or like English majors, and they took a couple years and were like, wait, I want to be a doctor, so they went back and now they're in medical school. Like so it's like people change their minds so much.
Yeah, they do, and it's okay.
It is. Oh my gosh, yeah, definitely okay.
Yeah, some people come in with the expectations that you have to know what you're doing your freshman year of college, which is crazy. If I think about like what I was like as an 18-year-old versus now, it's completely different.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I feel like I had the same overall, like, maybe goal of like, I want to be a doctor, but I don't know.
Right, like the path to get there.
Yeah, the path to get there, like, what kind of doctor? Like, do I really want to be a doctor? Like things like that
Right,
that
exactly.
go on the whole time while you're going through undergrad. But yeah, oh my gosh. So I kind of do want to get back to the microbiome stuff.
Yeah.
Actually.
So I actually had a thought. So
Okay.
to answer your question as to like what we know about the gut-brain axis.
Mm-hmm.
So
is this with birds or with people or like just in general?
So this is with like mice models.
Mice model. Okay.
Yeah. So the way that you can study the microbiome is you either have like a germ-free animal. So germ-free meaning that they're born in a sterile environment.
Okay.
So they have no microbiota whatsoever.
Hmm.
And they like supplement. So your microbiota.
So even with mice that are like born, through because they're mammals, like born from the mother.
Right. So with that, they actually like surgically remove them before they pass through the vaginal canal.
And don't let them touch the skin or anything.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So they like basically they'll raise multiple generations to the point where then a female can birth a sterile mouse.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then, so then it's just like a simple comparison as to like how do these germ-free mice react to certain things versus, let's say, a mouse that has a normal microbiome.
Okay.
So it was this really crazy study that they had a germ-free mouse and it exhibited increased anxiety-like behaviors. It had higher circulating stress hormone levels. And then they took a particular type of, I believe it was lactococcus, so like a strain of bacteria, and they inoculated it, and it normalized the behavioral deficits and normalized the hormone levels.
How does that work? Like,
that's I don't crazy. Know. Yeah. So I remember reading that paper. That's the paper that I read that like convinced me that there's this connection between gut microbiota and hormones. It just blew my mind.
Do they know? Or do you know like the feedback of how the gut actually like feeds up to the brain?
Yeah. So there's a couple of mechanisms.
Okay.
So your gut bacteria can actually just naturally create neurotransmitters.
Okay.
So they can create serotonin, dopamine.
The bacteria are doing this.
Yeah. Wow. GABA. And then it travels up. So your vagus nerve.
Okay. Yep.
It travels up to your vagus nerve, which then, so your vagus nerve kind of like intertwines.
So the neurotransmitters that these bacteria are making actually get taken up by nerve cells?
Yep. And so they get taken up by nerve cells and then they can travel the whole way to the brain. And then the way that, let's say, a hormone elicits a response is it's like a lock and key mechanism.
Okay, yep.
So you have receptors on your brain that are basically acting like the lock. And then the neurotransmitter comes in and it attaches to the receptor and then it basically unlocks it and then it elicits a response.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get a bunch of, say, like serotonin producing bacteria, shoots up your vagus nerve, and now there's more serotonin and
Yeah. So that's the connection between, so it's really bizarre to think about like how could gut bacteria influence your mood?
Yeah.
It has to do with the chemical messengers that they produce. It's not like they're intentionally trying to manipulate host behavior, at least in humans. Insects are a different story.
We can get into that too if you want.
We could. I know a little bit about
it. Okay. Sounds good.
But it has to do with like the different chemicals and whatnot that the bacteria are just naturally producing when they're metabolizing.
Yeah.
And then it just travels up to your brain.
Yeah.
And so going back to like the short chain fatty acids. So short chain fatty acids that your microbiota extract from like dietary carbohydrates.
Okay.
They can actually travel up through the bloodstream to your brain. And then there's the blood-brain barrier and it can cross.
So is this what's actually crossing? Is it like glucose or is it still the
it's different types of short chain fatty acids. Okay. So it's like butyrate.
Okay, that's cool though. Because because there's like the blood-brain barrier, right? But because they're fatty acid. Well, are they still acids? Like they're charged and everything, or can they just cross it?
Yeah. So there are. I forget the name of the kind of receptor, but there's certain receptors that are sitting right on the blood-brain barrier that the short-chain fatty acids can go and they attach to.
Okay.
And then that's how they get through.
Okay, so they're not just like diffusing through.
No.
Okay, gotcha.
No. You're like hitting onto receptors and then going through.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's how, there's just like this bidirectional.
So what happens once those fatty acids get into the brain? Are they created, like, are they like the building blocks for more neurotransmitters? How does that work?
So they're like two separate mechanisms.
Okay.
Yeah. So the neurotransmitters are in their own category. Short chain fatty acids are more about affecting metabolism.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And what exactly happens, like the biochemistry of what happens to them in the brain, I have no clue.
I like that that neurotransmitter not theory, like it's been proven, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But that's so cool because like if gut bacteria are creating, let's like take serotonin again, for example, and putting that up in the brain, like the drugs that people take, the antidepressants that people take if they're depressed are serotonin modulators. So they're SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So that's creating more serotonin in your brain so that you can feel happier and not depressed.
Right.
But if your gut bacteria are creating this, that serotonin for you, and now you have more serotonin in your brain, you're going to be happier.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So my advisor just got a Department of Defense grant that we're working off of now, where we're taking what we learned from like stress physiology and microbiome being a subset of what we're learning. We're taking what we learned in birds, and then we're going to try and apply that to PTSD in soldiers.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So in August, I'm going down to the Department of Defense to give a presentation.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So that's why.
Where is that at?
It's at their headquarters in Arlington,
Virginia. Okay.
Yeah. But that's how you can take, let's say, this. One of the main questions I get is how can what you're learning in birds apply to humans? There's just like basic science where we're learning these things that are specific to birds, and that just like adds to science in general.
Sure, yeah.
But there's also the applied side where we can use birds as a tractable system. Like you can't go and manipulate humans the way that you can manipulate a bird.
Yeah, right.
So
it's got to start somewhere too.
Exactly, right. So that's why pretty much all medical research has come from other kinds of model systems, mice and whatnot. But birds represent like a really unique system because they're out in the wild.
Yeah.
So then we can apply what we know from them because the stress response, and we're also learning that the gut bacteria are like evolutionary conserved across vertebrates.
Okay.
So we can take what we apply to birds and extrapolate it to humans.
Oh, okay. That's cool. So these gut bacteria have been a part of our evolutionary past for a long time.
Yeah, so it's crazy. You can like track our evolutionary origins. Your gut bacteria match.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. That is so cool.
Yeah. So that's my answer to people that ask, why do I study birds?
So is this going to be one of the first projects that you guys are applying over to humans, or does your lab PI do a lot of that?
Yeah, it'll be one of the first. This is cool. Like the first like outside of the National Science Foundation, which is like primarily about basic research and just new discoveries in general. Yeah. But this will be the first one where we're actually taking like an agency that's devoted to humans and using that money to study birds. Okay. Yeah.
That's cool. So are you doing all of like your bird research stuff with the lab birds and stuff? Is that all in New York?
It is. Okay. Yeah. So I'm really lucky. So we have a whole bunch of field sites that are within a 15-minute drive.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about doing any more trips like you did to Ecuador and stuff? Or are you mostly going to be right there in Cornell?
So I'm thinking about doing some field work in Alaska.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. What kind of birds there?
Tree swallows.
Oh,
so it's the same. Okay. Yeah. So we have different populations across the United States that we could go and work with.
Okay.
But I'd say most of my traveling comes from going to scientific conferences.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Is that fully funded too, as being a PhD student?
It depends.
Okay.
Yeah. So it depends on the agreement with your advisor as to what they'll fund. But you can apply for travel grants through the graduate school.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where have you gone so far?
Been to Panama, Alaska. So I was just in Alaska a couple weeks ago.
Jeez, that's a lot of traveling.
Yeah. In January I'm going to Texas, and then next August I'll be going to.
January's a good time to go to Texas.
Oh yeah.
What was the last one? Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Puerto Rico will be the next one, and then eventually potentially Australia.
Those are all awesome places to go.
Yeah. So scientific conferences are fantastic because just a whole bunch of nerds get together and they talk about their science, and it's always in these really great locations.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to like the middle of Ohio or something.
Exactly.
Worst state ever.
Right. Do you go?
Sorry. Penn State plug. It's like a shirt people wear. It's like Ohio State.
Do you get to go present your research at all?
Yeah, so I actually went to one of these middle of nowhere conferences. So right before I went to, I had some Army training that I did this summer. Right before I did that, I went to a conference it's called French Lick, Indiana. So
whoa.
Yeah, so never heard of the place. I Googled it before we went, and like the population was equally like this, probably smaller than Mifflintown.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact number, but like a few thousand people pretty much.
Gotcha.
And it's just this small little town, but it's like a big golf resort. And with this huge hotel, like I don't even know how I would explain how huge this hotel is.
Quite the place.
Yeah, so yeah, it was just the middle of nowhere. It's probably like an hour and a half drive outside of Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
So it was kind of an inconvenient amount of like travel because we couldn't really fly in because there's no airport in French Lick, but you could fly into Louisville and then like rent a car and drive an hour and a half.
Okay.
Or we could just drive from Pittsburgh. So we drove from Pittsburgh, but it was like an 8-hour drive for like this conference in the middle of nowhere. But that was actually with a side project I'm working on, which is in like plastic surgery stuff. So that was like a plastic surgery conference with a bunch of these plastic surgeons and stuff, and these big big wig plastic surgeon guys playing golf and everything. And there's a big casino and stuff. But it was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's super cool.
That's the only one I've actually traveled to. There's been a couple in Pittsburgh, but so I know some people that are going all over the place in med school. Some people were just in the Philippines for the summer doing research.
Wow.
Some other people were in Europe. Yeah, it's pretty cool. If you can find the funding and like the research, you can pretty much go wherever.
Yeah, it is crazy where some people are. I have a couple collaborators right now who are collecting samples that they're in the Arctic, they're in the Falkland Islands.
Wow.
Which are like down past the edge of Argentina. Yeah, it's crazy where research can take you.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are in research, I would say definitely take advantage of it. Even though I haven't personally, I've only gone to Indiana so far.
Right.
But just seeing from like my friends and other people how much traveling you get to do.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely have the travel bug now.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, definitely.
So your project right now with the birds, and then you might do some stuff with PTSD.
Yep.
Are these like recent vets or?
So we haven't gotten to that stage yet.
Okay.
So we're basically, we'll be taking the findings that we learn from birds and then presenting that to the Department of Defense.
Okay.
And then I think what will happen is like another team that actually does like human oriented research.
Gotcha.
Will take our findings and then somehow apply it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Our lab is definitely not set up to study humans.
Yeah. Okay. But that's cool that you can like provide the framework for other studies for other labs.
Yeah. I'm really excited for this presentation because I'll be presenting to like psychologists and sociologists.
Wow.
Yeah. So it'll be a different audience than what I've presented to before.
How did you find your mentor originally? Is this just something like you Googled, like, birds, gut-brain axis, and she just popped up or he popped up?
So I actually saw her give a presentation at a conference.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so that's another really good reason to go to conferences is networking.
Yeah.
So I was a sophomore in college, and I went to a conference in Washington, D.C., and I saw her give a speech on stress physiology in tree swallows. Didn't even know she was doing gut microbiota. And then I just shot her an email, and I had mentioned that I wanted to bring like some kind of aspect with gut microbiomes. And it just so happened that she had been collecting samples for years. And
wow. You just like lucked out there.
Samples sitting in the freezer.
Yeah.
So it was really serendipitous that it worked out that way.
That's cool. Yeah. So what's your plan for, it's kind of far off in the future, but after you get your PhD?
Yeah. So the next step usually is to do a postdoctoral fellowship, or what we call just a postdoc, where you travel and work with another lab for 1 to 2 years, and you kind of diversify your research skills, but you're more in a senior role in the lab then. And then you can do anywhere from 1 to 3 postdocs depending on what the job market's like. But then into the future, I would like to be a professor.
Very cool.
I still love teaching.
Yeah.
Love teaching, but I also love research.
So your original goal was high school biology teacher, and now you ramped it up 10 times.
Professor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
So yeah, we'll just see where the job takes me. I don't really feel confined to have to stay on the East Coast. It would be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else that you think we should hit on from a research side of things?
Oh, I think we hit it. I
Yeah.
think we've talked about the gut-brain axis, difference between grad school and med school.
Yeah. So when are you heading back to school? Are you just home for the weekend?
I am home for 8 more hours. So, and then I'm driving down to the beach with my college roommates.
Okay. What beach are you going to?
Ocean City, Maryland.
Nice. Okay. I think I'm going with some people to Rehoboth next weekend.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never been there, but
yeah, Rehoboth is nice. Yeah. It's not like Ocean City, Maryland. I just always think it's like a party town. But Rehoboth is more relaxed.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, it's
darn. That's cool though.
Yeah. But then after that, I'll head back. I have some undergraduates that are working with me, so they're giving presentations for their end of summer projects. So,
do you get to interview the undergrads and like kind of select who you want, or is it just okay?
Yeah. So depending on what programs they come into, so we have a couple that are working with us from outside universities, but yeah, we get the chance to review applications and see who would be a good fit in the lab.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many undergrads do you have working with you right now?
So I primarily have 2 that are working directly with me this summer, but when we actually have like the big field season where our entire lab is collecting data, I think we had 12 working with us full time. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot, but mentoring is great. So
nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any research or anything that you'd want people to check out online, or like follow you on Instagram or anything like that, or do you want to remain just kind of a mystery?
Let's see. I don't know. You can check out the Vatusic Lab website.
Nice. Okay.
I don't have my own personal website yet. That will be a couple years down the line. But
how do you spell that?
Oh gosh. Okay. VITOUSEK.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for people to take care of their microbiome, or is this outside of your scope of?
Well, I can kind of, yeah. Antibiotics are one of the worst things that can happen.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're prescribed antibiotics, just take what is prescribed to you. If you overdo it, you can wipe out certain members of your community. And then if people have ever heard of like C. diff infections.
Yeah.
So C. diff is this particular species of bacteria that is always present in your gut. But let's say you have another species that's knocked down by an antibiotic or an illness. C. diff is one of those ones that can really like take over quick.
Makes
and then
really
it becomes
sick.
a problem. Right.
Yeah.
It makes
diarrhea,
you really
yeah.
Right. It makes you really sick.
You don't want C. diff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I guess you have it, but you don't want the
have it, but don't let it grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So just, take your antibiotics as prescribed.
Yeah. And don't, if you just have the common cold, try not to go in and like beg for antibiotics.
No, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's like one of the worst things I think people can do, especially with like young kids, is really just, let your kids go outside. Like let them get dirty, because that's how you get inoculated with a
Isn't
healthy
that cool?
microbiome.
Yeah. If you're playing in the dirt, you can get this bacteria that's actually good for you.
No, you can. Yeah. Like I know that, and I'll probably be this way when I have kids too someday, but some people are like, don't touch my baby. Like use hand sanitizer before you touch my baby. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because it's actually good. Like they're
being exposed to, your immune system's developing.
Yeah.
So you're being exposed to different kinds of microbiota through the environment. So it's important to let that happen.
And while your immune system is still like, it wants to
it wants
be exposed
to
all sorts of stuff and learn. So playing in the dirt, playing with worms, things like that.
Right. Exactly.
Is good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what about like things to eat? I've heard like eating inulin and other like fibers and stuff like that to basically feed the gut bacteria, because we can't digest it, but they can, and then it's like food for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, a diverse diet. I mean, even if you're strictly vegetarian or pescatarian or vegan, within your particular diet regime, just like be broad.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why, like, let's say that someone's vegetarian and then they eat a hamburger, all of a sudden they get sick because their bacteria aren't trained
to digest
that.
Okay.
Because if you're only feeding your bacteria certain types of food, it means that you're going to knock back the ones that need other types of nutrients.
Okay. Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder if that has to do with, I wonder if that's similar to like when people get sick traveling and drinking like tap water from places that like the local people don't get sick from that. But if you go there and drink that, it can make you really sick for like a few days.
Potentially. Yeah. So it's crazy. Like, so if you look at like the microbiome literature with diet, we have like a westernized diet. So we've decreased in our fiber. So like we're like really high, like meat, dairy. But
is that good, do you think?
Well, so what's happened of revolutionary time is that a westernized diet has actually decreased the diversity of our microbiome.
Oh, no.
Right. And then and it's due to like the loss of fiber in the diet.
Oh, okay. Because that fiber is the food for these bacteria.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really crazy. Like if you were to sample like all humans across the world, they'll clump geographically, but they'll also clump according to their dietary source.
Okay. Huh.
Like, yeah, depending like how similar their microbiota is.
So we've talked a lot about bacteria. You said that the microbiome is all microorganisms, right?
Yes.
So are there like helpful and commensal bacteria or viruses in our gut and things like that?
I don't know that much about it.
Okay.
I primarily focus on bacteria.
Okay. Gotcha.
But there are, I mean, there's archaea, which are like another branch of life.
Yeah, they're weird, aren't they? Like
they are weird.
I feel like no one.
We're like actually closer. Hold on, no, I'm not gonna say that because I'm not sure.
Well, go ahead and say it, and we'll just put a disclaimer that maybe it
may not be true. I'm definitely more
because I don't know anything about archaea.
Okay, I'm more of an ecologist than I am an evolutionary biologist. Okay, but I think archaea are closer to us than bacteria are.
I think so. I think I have heard that. Okay. I don't know. I literally don't know anything about them.
I don't either really.
Yeah,
but I know
kind of a mystery. It would be interesting to talk to someone that like does know a lot about them.
Yeah,
because I feel like they're
few and far between. Like commensal archaea.
Yeah,
I don't know. There you go, Nick. Can you research out?
Yeah, I guess I will. Aren't there theories that there were like that archaea like fused with bacteria back in the day, and that's how you got like the eukaryotic cell?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So they think that like chloroplast and mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah. Okay, we're probably losing a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
here.
Sorry. So your mitochondria is like a small organelle.
Yeah.
Inside of your like all of your body cells that basically creates the energy that you run off of.
Yeah, so it's basically like your cell's little factory.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And then
or energy plant, I guess.
Right. So that's in animal cells. So if we flip over to plant cells, they have chloroplast. That's what allows them to like photosynthesize.
Yeah, like taking in the light from the sun and making it into food.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like there's theories that way back when that these organelles were just free living, and then one day they were engulfed by
some sort of bacteria or something.
I think some kind of bacterium, and then they became like dependent. So the word for that is it became like an endosymbiont.
Yeah.
So it's basically just like another, I don't know. The mitochondria is an endosymbiont because it benefits the larger organism.
And then it gets the protection being inside of the larger organism. So it's evolutionarily advantageous to be inside this other cell.
Right.
And then that's what developed eukaryotes, which are what we are. These like higher multicellular organisms that can, make tissue and things like that.
Whereas like a bacterium, which is a single cell, is a prokaryote.
Yeah, right. So
so that's exactly the way that microbiomes have like evolved with us, is that we benefit from them and then they benefit from us.
Yeah, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I guess we can wrap this up. Yeah. It was awesome talking to you. That is super cool. Like, I feel like I learned a lot. So
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And I'm happy to answer questions. If any of the viewers, you can shoot Nick an email or.
Yeah. Do you want to give your email out or no? Yeah, just shoot me an email. I'll forward it.
Yeah, shoot Nick an email. Sounds and then, yeah. But thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Thanks for coming.
I learned a lot too about med school stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's crazy to see how far we've all come.
I know, right?
Since graduating.
Everyone from this small town.
Yeah. Doing some cool crazy stuff. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
And we're going to find out a lot more too this afternoon at the reunion.
Great. Yeah.
What everyone else is up to.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, Jenn.
Yep. Thank you.
See ya. Thanks for listening, everybody. You can find us on Facebook at Insights of All Trades. Find us on Instagram at Insights of All Trades. Twitter is IOAT Podcast. And send us your insights via email at insightsofalltrades@gmail.com. You can also DM us if you have some insights, and we'll include you at the beginning of the podcast. Thanks again. See you soon.